To be with you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Very smart person, smart lady over there. Thank you so much. All right, among one of the IMF's many suggestions for how to get the American economy back on track, reducing the tax deduction for home mortgages. Yes, that's what they're saying. And now that's a sacred cow here in America, but to the Fox Business All-Stars, we've got Nancy Skinner, Andrea Tantaros, Jonathan Honig, and Erica Payne. Nancy, now, are you going to be behind abolishing the mortgage interest deduction? Wouldn't that flatten an already flattened housing market?
Are you kidding me? Wouldn't touch it. No, on two grounds. Yes, absolutely. I do think so because, you know, we are just recovering with housing values, and the difference between renting and owning right now is the deduction. You take that away, and what do? You eliminate property taxes that funds education. So I think it's a disaster. I think it hurts the market, and I think it also, from a revenue standpoint, hurts us. There are plenty of ways to cut the deficit, and I agree we have to cut the deficit. This is not a good one.
You know, Jonathan, the FT came out with a column earlier in the week talking about this. And, you know, I got to tell you, it's rather annoying to hear the FT weighing in on this when they can't, what's going on in the UK isn't so cinematically picture perfect with their economic recovery and their own, you know, bailout programs. But the idea behind abolishing the mortgage interest deduction is people assume that rich people are going to buy houses anyway, that people who can afford it are going to buy houses anyway. Do you buy that argument?
I think that people will buy houses, Liz. I think they will always buy houses. But at the same rate
without the deduction.
Liz, we don't want high prices. We want accurate prices. So, yes, in this case, the IMF is absolutely right. The deductibility of mortgage interest should be eliminated for everybody, not just those making, by the way, under $250,000 a year. We don't want the government to incentivize any asset class, Liz, stocks, bonds, real estate, or anything else. So let's have a real free market in real estate and get the government subsidy out.
He's so true blue, Erica. He's so true libertarian capitalist. Erica, what do you think?
Well, there's no empirical evidence that that giving the interest rate tax deduction causes people to buy more or fewer houses. There are lots of countries that don't have the interest rate deduction, and they have their housing rates about the same.
I bought a house, and I was all for that deduction.
Well, but I mean, listen. I bought a house, and I liked the deduction too. But it didn't mean that that was the reason that I bought the house. What has typically been shown is that that's the reason people buy bigger houses, or that's the reason people borrow more against their houses that they have already.
But what people can afford, it factors into the price of the house and what you can afford.
Right, and so what happens when the price is inelastic, if you're like on a coastline, you know, and you have a limited amount of real estate, what it does is it drives the price of the house up, but it doesn't actually encourage more home ownership. So like I paid $600,000 for a 650 square foot apartment
so it's sort
in
of
New
like
York, partially because of this deduction.
You know, I've got to watch my waistline and what I can ingest, I guess the argument is, because of what I can. Well, never mind that. We won't go there. But Andrew, what do you make of this?
You're doing a lot better than Neil, so you look gorgeous.
Oh, but I love Neil. Thank you. And Nancy, I love you too, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I'm sure Neil will take that up with you next Monday. But
he will.
Yeah, I agree with the IMF on this one too. It's one of the very few instances. I mean, they're talking about reforming Freddie and Fannie. The government has refused to do that. We know it's a problem. And when it comes to this mortgage tax credit, I think they're right on the market. Nobody wants to deny anybody a house, but that's the issue that got us into this situation in the first place. It was a noble goal, you know, giving everybody a house, but we're borrowing that money to make this tax credit happen. And so we have to ask ourselves, is this a permanent entitlement? And also, people are getting these homes, but they're losing their jobs. I mean, if these people are not going to have jobs to sustain and pay for these homes, are we on the verge of another bubble?
But Nancy, you know, is this the time to do this, though? I mean, the housing market is so crushed. Why not wait until the economy is stronger again to even float this kind of an idea?
Absolutely. I know, Jonathan, I almost fell off my chair. He agrees with the IMF. You know,
look, more astounding, he agrees with Erica.
They have a lot of absolutely idiotic ideas as well. They want to tax banks and tax transactions. So, I mean, but their idea of actually getting the government out of manipulating housing prices, I think, is right on the money. We want prices to accurately reflect reality.
the risk of a double dip is with housing, not with the economy.
Yeah, in other words, Erica, that's Nancy's point. And Nancy, you're saying we risk a double dip, not maybe in the economy, but in housing. Is that your point, Nancy?
Yes, exactly.
What do you think of that, Erica?
No, well, I mean, you have to look first at the long term, which is to say, are we creating distortions in the housing market, and did those distortions help lead to the crash that we just had?
Aren't you worried about a double dip in housing?
Yes, I'm worried about a double dip in a recession as well. I mean, I think these are very, very fair points, and nobody seems to want to address them.
So why throw another X-ray lead blanket on the housing market when it doesn't need it?
Well, yeah, they should think about it. We should make this a permanent entitlement. We have to ask ourselves, what are we just going to continue with this forever?
You're so passionate about
these
things.
I know. I get fired up.
Well, you're going to bring that passion back in a little while, gang. You've been terrific. So smart, this gang. So next up.